Welcome to Security Live. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Brian Mendenhall. We are here to talk about security, obviously Security Live, but this is a show dedicated to bringing in AWS partner magicians, as I like to say, Ryan. I think that's the official term,
Official
to
title.
talk about what AWS customers are looking for and how AWS security partners have the expertise and thought leadership. I'm not alone. I am joined by, I'm going to say, my favorite co-host, Mr. Ryan Orsi.
Oh, you're too kind, Brian. And thanks for having me on here, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But Ryan, we are not alone, right? We've also got some guests with us.
Someone out there chilling out here. Let's go ahead and bring on our special guest, Jonathan from Mission Cloud. Hello, sir.
Welcome. Hello there. Just point of order. I'm not a magician. I'm a wizard. So that's a title it carries with it. You know, I've got a pointy hat, got the whole thing. So just want to make
it Merlin.
Going to LinkedIn right now.
Yep.
Well, awesome. Jonathan, where are you dialing in from, by the way? And everyone else that's watching, feel free to say hello. Where do you hail from, everybody?
Beautiful, scenic Southern California. I'm staring out my window at blue skies and 72 degrees. Cannot complain.
Are you my neighbor?
Probably.
Yeah. I think we're all neighbors here. We're
nice.
Interesting.
I'm in the South Bay of Los Angeles, so Redondo Beach area.
Pretty close. San Diego-ish.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Nice.
He's like a distant cousin.
Yeah. Shall not disclose physical location.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, isn't that like a cybersecurity? Did I just have a data breach? Disclosing?
You're getting doxxed, man.
Is that a recordable? It's going to go on Amazon's SOC 2 report, I think. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about Mission Cloud, about what it is that you do there.
Sure. So Mission Cloud is actually a part of CDW, so a big publicly traded company with a long history in IT, but we are the dedicated AWS practice inside of CDW. We joined CDW about 1.5 years ago. We are an end-to-end partner, so we do every single thing you can think of from sort of the entire cloud transformation journey and now AI transformation as well. And I was the founding CTO at Mission, and now I head cloud and AI technology within sort of the umbrella organization for sort of the cloud and AI practices, which means I get to do stuff like this and attempt to pretend to be an expert. I get to meet with customers and act as an executive sponsor. It's a great pleasure to work with AWS, and it's been about 8-9 years now in this partnership together. So yeah,
man, sounds like a total boring job, Jonathan.
It's pretty fun. No lie.
It sounds awesome. It sounds great. And, it would be great. Like we've been talking a lot, right? So in Brian and I's day job, we're working with a lot of AWS partners or magicians like yourself. Sorry, wizards.
Yeah, there we go.
Wizards, my bad. And we, of course, we're talking about all sorts of technological challenges, successes, how to best leverage cloud and security. And of course, people have invested in their own security tools before they come to cloud, and how all that fits together. I believe you have a little bit of a background here in helping people through that. All right. If you were a founding CTO there at Mission Cloud, you all have really gotten close to the AWS community here. I think everyone, right, Brian, everyone would be able to say, yeah, oh yeah, Mission, I know them.
Absolutely.
It's because your technical chops and the transparency you all have when you're actually like bringing someone to the cloud in a transparent way and being very honest about what security tools they should use or how they should wire them up. I wonder if you can kind of tell us a bit of a story, my friend.
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the benefits of being that end-to-end partner is that we get to see a lot of different things, right? So customers come to us all the time with different sort of challenges that they're facing. On security, that is particularly exciting because there's like 1,000 different things that people will come to us with, and ultimately, it's a lot of the time we have to preach to everyone like, all these things really do fall in the same bucket, right? You're talking about things like access. You're talking about the fact that humans are your biggest liability. And now agents are actually equivalently the biggest. In fact, they're probably like a human liability plus, right? Much worse. And so, I've gotten the ability, had the opportunity to really walk through a lot of different use cases with customers, talk to them about compliance. and healthcare, right? That's another one that I think is really interesting for me personally. It's where I started my career. My first job in in IT was managing a electronic medical records platform, delivering it in hospital systems, and all of the pain and suffering that comes along with that. So,
Oh, I share that. I share
painful
that
history.
the historical bruises, bumps, and pains, Jonathan. Somebody was crazy enough in my early years to pay me as a coder on an electronic medical healthcare
That's
system.
what I was doing. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I always tell people a story about one time I went to one of our hospitals, and our hospital systems, I was a customer, and I was like, "Hey, how do you guys feel about your security?" And they're like, "Oh, we're great. We're locked down. Our IT team does a great job." I took out my laptop, I plugged in an Ethernet cable into the wall, and showed them that I could see all the traffic that was flying around. I was like, "Yeah, you need some help. You need some help."
It'll
So,
help. Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
100%.
Nice. And there's anytime we talk about like cybersecurity, AWS, our customers are highly verticalized, industrialized. Like they have a business that they run on AWS. Healthcare is like one of the ones that we always talk about in the forefront, right? It's like, there's so many unique things when it comes to healthcare and cybersecurity. You've got compliance, but I think that there's also this mix of also like physical safety is a part of this as well.
Yeah.
You've got like sensitive data, physical safety. It's kind of all of the things that we like zero in on in security. And I'm curious, Jonathan, like you mentioned in the beginning, end-to-end security. That's what Mission does.
Yeah.
What does that look like in the healthcare setting? Like, is there something different about healthcare when it comes to end-to-end security?
So I think the answer is yes and no, right? So Ryan, it's funny you mentioned coding, right? So when we talk about coding in the healthcare context, we're talking about it's a billing problem, right? You're saying this service was provided and this is the code for it, and then insurance can decide if they pay for it and what they pay for and all that good stuff. And so end to end really does.
Those wily guys.
Yeah. As you know, famously easy to work with insurance companies and hospital billing departments. And it's funny, I think a customer that we worked with is called White Plume. They are in that sort of billing, coding kind of part of the healthcare, systems. And they really have to face it from all ends, right? So they're financial, right? That they have all of the pain and suffering that comes from that, right? They have, patient information and healthcare and all of that. So they're like this, a great example of why you have to think of end to end in a fully holistic way, because they've got all of these different special kind of cases for them. But as much as that is true, there's always like a lot of patterns, right? Like I feel like a lot of things cascade across every vertical or most verticals, right? Some simple basic concepts, best practices to align to, and so on. So that customer in particular was interesting because they were going into sort of a new category within the healthcare world, and there was new compliance regimes they had to align to, right? And that's always the least fun part of security and compliance is new. Oh, great. I have 1,000 new controls. Do they map to things that I'm already doing or not? What does this all look like in practice? So end to end is critical, especially in healthcare, because you're just, you're touching on all the different, compliance regimes and use cases and challenges. So.
Oh yeah. But not all hope is lost, right, Jonathan, with
No.
new compliance, regulatory compliance standards coming out. It used to be, I agree. I don't know how many years ago, if we want to date ourselves here, guys, but what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, if that came out in an organization, you would gather your troops, you would figure out what tools people are using, if they've got logging turned on, where the logs are going, and you'd have to go through kind of line by line and do sort of your own re-audit. The spreadsheet of all, one spreadsheet to rule them all. I saw someone saying, like, why the heck are there so many Lord of the Rings references in tech shows? I don't know. It's just one thing we have. That and video games probably. But going line by line, spreadsheet by spreadsheet, finding if you have a control, where the logs are to prove you have the control enabled and how it's configured. I think there's been a lot of leaps forward in automation, especially with the use of course, our friend AI. That's a complex data problem and visibility problem. Are you at Mission and CDW there kind of digging into that already? I'm sure you guys are, but just curious, how is it working in real life?
So spreadsheets are obviously the most convenient and easy and totally durable way to do everything, right? Like there's no challenges there. Having just a random like cell-based database that anyone can go in and mess with. I think the answer is yes. Obviously, like we encounter this all the time. Even if you just look internally at ourselves, right? Like when we have compliance regimes that we have to align to, you're having to look at, I don't want to have each one of these things be its own independent sort of effort. You need to map down controls to sort of just like across the business, this is how we do. You know what I mean? This is our approach. These are the tools we use, and they map out to the different compliance regimes rather than the other way around. Because otherwise you get into this like extremely painful every single time you have to go through and get audited. It's an event, right? You don't want events. Events are bad. You want ways that you do things. This is the natural way. You can audit me whenever you want and I will show up prepared. I can show the work. I know, our controls align back out to the compliance regimes. We're the boss of them. They're not the boss of us, right? And that's what we try to help customers with as well. Same exact thing. You want to make this a non-event. You want to make it a systemic, a way that you operate to make sure that you're, there's no panic. There's no scrambling the jets and trying to get everyone together every single time you need to be audited. If that makes sense.
Right. And it does. And I'm just like, as you're saying that, John, the wheels are turning. And like my mind immediately goes so broad that like the picture gets fuzzy. Right. And so I guess to narrow it back in, if you're in that journey, like where do you start? Like, how do you get started in this journey? Because I feel like you're going to Mordor. Like you got to make sure that like the first step is in the right direction kind of thing. Otherwise you'll end up in Hobbiton and like, maybe.
Are we talking about foundations? Are we talking about the Shire?
We should talk about the Council of Elrond, Brian. I think that's really what
it's on the way. It's on the way. Those are the auditors, maybe. I'm not sure, but either way, like, how do you know like where to start your journey and like making sure that the first step you take is the right one?
Yeah, I think just zooming out, right? As you said, just kind of take a meta look overall, and think about, okay, what is our posture? What are the things that we need to consider and care about? If you can start with the context of best practices, I find that to be probably one of the best places to start. So one of the things we do at Mission is we'll go in and do an assessment with a customer. So just roll in an hour-long kind of conversation, maybe instrument some systems, go through and look and say, hey, where are your gaps, right? AWS has a bunch of different tools to help with this. So Trusted Advisor is a good example, and we'll frequently go in and do these assessments. We actually have our own piece of software called Mission Control. We connect it to customer, they connect it to their own accounts, their AWS accounts, and allow us to do some benchmarking and scorecarding. And when you go in and you've got this sort of like punch list, it's a good place to start, right? Because here are the things where I feel like we're kind of okay, and here are the places where we know we are out of alignment with the best practice. And then that gives you sort of a punch list. You can work from there, but starting big, zooming out, and then getting more and more granular as you start to discover pain and suffering, right? And I think, there's a QR code up there that actually links out to, Mission and our assessments. Is it this way or that? It's up there in the corner somewhere.
Top corner.
No. Nice. Okay. So yeah, I think just starting fresh from a zoomed out position, instrumenting your environment a little bit, taking advantage of the tools that are available to you, like Trusted Advisor, is sort of a good place to start.
Yeah, you don't know what you should be worried about unless you somehow are told about it, right? Or you're able to see it, right? What now you doing a lot of these assessments for customers out there? Where's the big bone pile of mistakes? Where are the trends that people are making big mistakes in?
I think the biggest mistake that organizations make is treating every problem as its own new thing. And that means you end up with drift, you end up with point solutions that aren't really looking at sort of a behavioral like system of this is how we do things. I'll hammer on that over and over again. You don't just need procedures. You don't just need tools. You need a system. You need it to be in an integrated fashion. And taking advantage of those building blocks, that's AWS's like superpower, right? They always use that word superpower. Building blocks, giving you all the tools you need to be successful. And it's just a matter of like understanding what tools are there for me. How do I put them to work? Things like Control Tower. I think that is probably one of my favorite examples, right? Because it's literally like a foundational way for you to vend out new accounts and apply governance in a consistent fashion, and make sure that every single time a new account's created, it's in alignment with your policies and best practices and with your compliance and everything, right? So, get to systems, get to a place where you have a codified approach versus one-off, onesie, twosie. You just end up with drift in that world, right? Because every single time something new happens, people will take the shortcut, and instead of going through the systems, they're creating a whole sprawling estate of approaches, and that doesn't scale. It just doesn't scale.
My friend, I think you're preaching to the Ryan and Brian choir here. We get pulled in a lot, right? With companies like yourselves, the end customers that we're both working with, and we can see moments in time, like on the timeline of that organization, where maybe there's like turnover, there's a different CISO or a different security team in place, or an application owning team that they come in. It seems to be like there was an emergency exercise, that something was broken, or they thought something was massively broken. They didn't realize that, it's just related to like logs not firing anymore from some of your network security protection applications and devices. And they think there's a big gap there. So they go invest and they source a brand new vendor. They kind of bolt something on. Those log files get wired into the SIM, or the security information event management system, which Jonathan has not even used like an acronym beyond AI.
No, out of the gate.
I'm trying to avoid the acronym.
Man, we can't even toast him for that.
My man was prepared.
Yeah, but the quilting and bolting of independent products. Now, we of course have a great library, a set of security partners out there in marketplace you can all look at. But the point of choosing one of them is they're definitely a part of our overall fabric, and they definitely work together. And that's what, underline and bold that statement: quilting and bolting independent products into your environment.
That's good.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, and I do think, again, things like Security Hub, right? AWS provides the building blocks. They're all there for you. And the sooner you can get to a place where you have sort of visibility across your business, continuously aligning with those best practices, what tools do I have in place? What functions are they reporting? This is all kind of part and parcel of the situation. You do not want one-offs. I hate one-offs. It's like my least favorite thing ever. We're like, we'll just hack this one. It's like, no, don't do that. You're just going to create a problem for yourself in like, a week. Even it could or 2 years, which is much worse, because now you don't remember why you did the random one-off thing, right? Yeah,
that's right. And I was thinking about what is the average tenure of a cybersecurity employee at this point, right? And then what's the average duration of a project? Like assuming somebody comes on board and they're like, my life exists to clean up the identity space in our environment. And they start a project day one. Is the reality of that project going to be done by the time before they even leave? I think the average tenure is like less than 2 years.
Yeah.
Last I checked. And so you've got like builder's debt is kind of like something that I've been thinking about a lot as well. You've got tech debt, you've got builder's debt, you've got initiative debt, you've got project debt. And so all these things kind of run concurrently. And I think you end up with what was it, Ryan? The quilt and bolt of hodgepodge, dead marshes. Lord of the Rings, dead marshes. You got the dead marshes of identity products.
Oh, Mendenhall, way to bring us back, brother. Way to bring us back. Yeah.
Full circle, baby. So, Jonathan, sorry, go, please.
No, you first.
My favorite co-host. I was just going to say,
Frodo looking at the bodies, and it was
I love that.
Yeah, of course.
We've been talking a lot about identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so identity and in the context of like a healthcare organization, identity is not, remember like 5 years ago when identity was not a part of security, maybe 10 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
But now that's not even part of the discussion. It's like identity is so built into security and I would say the infrastructure itself, right? That these two concepts have kind of become inseparable. When it comes to identity and how that applies to your workloads, what is Mission Cloud's approach to like some of those best practices of what you should be doing with your identity and some of the controls and things you should be putting in place?
Good question, and I'm glad you brought it up. So that white plume organization we talked about earlier, right? Like they experienced just what you described. They had some IT resources in the business that ended up leaving, and with them, institutional knowledge leaked out. Right, it's gone, and that means you have to scramble and get into a position where you understand what you have, you understand the landscape of your estate, what are your processes and procedures, and that's really, really hard to do, especially when you're on a crunch, right? And so they actually had a customer opportunity, and they were like, "We need this specific, regime." I can't even remember what it was, but are you compliant with that? And they're like, but maybe, right? And that's when we jumped in and kind of helped them with that, right? And I think the way I like to think about this is sort of in two ways. So you've got sort of the human identity and access management, and then you have the system to system, security, right? And authentication and access management. And both of those actually end up being kind of similar. As it turns out, if you can start to think of this as what actor has access to what resource, right? And that actor could be a system, it could be a person, and so on. And you want to zoom that out as much as possible and get to a place where you can treat things in sort of as groups, right? And so this grouping has these policies attached, right? And that can be true for services, that can be true for humans. And in the case of this business, they had just sort of this like sprawling legacy sort of network segmentation. There had been a lot of drift over the years. It's like, oh, I'll just, put this into this existing VPC rather than thinking like, do we need a new one? Like, is that the more appropriate way to do this? And so what we really helped them do was sort of peel back that onion and get to the place where they're like, okay, I understand the layers I have in my network topology. I understand the different VPCs I have. Let's audit them and make sure that we have the segmentation done well. They actually had a hybrid situation, right? And so they had to go to some of the things they have on-prem. They had some stuff in the hosted Active Directory and some other platform, let's say. And bringing all that together can be a challenge, but you have to start thinking about like grouping, zooming out a bit. Don't think about the one specific human, or the one specific system. Think about all of them and which categories exist and what's necessary. And if you use something like, a hosted Active Directory or pick your poison, right? Being able to use that in a consistent standard way and adopt some of the zero trust tools for your, kind of service to service, kind of connection points, like that's definitely the way to roll. You want to leverage systematic, ways to address the challenge more at a meta level, layer up from the individual service and people.
Now, in that example, Jonathan, how do you take tribal wetware knowledge between the ears from these people and document it? Are we still doing Visio diagrams? Like, what are you leaving behind or providing as a managed service perhaps for somebody so they can understand sort of, hey, the next acquisition target comes in, a new company comes in, a whole set of systems come in. How do I merge these things together? Or there's a new app that comes in.
Right. Yeah, I think it's sort of that you want an always on approach, right? You don't want to have to be constantly, looking at every single thing, right? Like, it's not what I'm saying, but you definitely want to be able to, monitor and benchmark, right? And as you're going through a system where you have, maybe you have a new workload you have to manage and deal with, you have, a change in structure in the business or a customer that requires something different, like approaching that in sort of that same way, I think is pretty, key. And drift is the problem. That is the number one challenge. And so if you're doing sort of an always on approach, again, that's something that we do at Mission. A lot of our customers come to us and just get a managed service around sort of security, right? And we'll work with a bunch of different vendors that we're partnering with. CDW has an incredible breadth of partnerships with ISVs and security space.
Is there one they don't have? I'd like to know the one they don't have. Yeah,
shorter list, right?
Yeah.
Shorter list. And having that, like, don't be afraid to get support and help, right? Like, you're going to lose people. It's going to happen. That's sort of the magic of being a partner, right? That's why AWS and Mission work together, right? That's why Mission works with other vendors, ISV vendors in the security space. Because you need that consistency, right? You want to have this sort of ballast, especially if you're in an organization where maybe you have a small IT team. And there could be massive enterprise, by the way, that has a very small IT organization, right? One of my favorite customers is the Boston Celtics. They're huge, the biggest sale in sports history a couple of years back, right, when they went on the market and sold. And they have this tiny little IT team who's incredibly skilled and capable. And the way they've chosen to scale is like, okay, what software can I get? What partners can I work with? How can I get to a position where if I lose one person, the ship doesn't sink, right?
Yeah. Durable thinking there. I really like that. The mentality. So a managed service for mission. That's actually great to hear. Jonathan, tell us a little more about. You said the trigger word for me. Zero trust is back.
Yeah.
You know, it flared up long ago as like a brand new concept.
Yeah.
Some people like got on that journey and started re-architecting things and trust nothing by default. Now it's back. Do you say that because of our friend AI, or do you say that because of something else?
I think AI is a huge contributor to that, right? Especially agentic AI specifically, right? Because zero trust in the sort of prior to that, human interaction is really about least privilege, right? And making sure that you give just the capabilities and access necessary for someone to do their job, and maybe even you do it on a temporary basis. So you break the glass, you have the access you need, and then it goes away, right? Well, guess what? Now you've got humans and you've got agents, and the agents are, if you thought that humans could be unreliable from time to time, agents can be as well. And we're in a very new phase with this. And so, applying some of those same kind of principles is critical. And zero trust allows you to do that sort of at a almost down to the level of granularity of a request by request basis. Like literally everything all the time is continuously ensured that you've got zero trust, right? And in applying that least privilege across your systems and your humans is pretty critical, especially when some of those systems are now like humans.
Agree. A little testy. One of my daily email hygiene agents is a little testy. I think it's getting burned out already. To help me not get burned out.
Well, I think it's an interesting point, right? Because there's been discussion over the last year, I would say, that hypothetically, you could have a software company that does whatever, has one employee and agents and AI, and is $1 billion a year company. I guess, Jonathan, I never thought of your perspective in Boston Celtics is, could you have an IT team that is one person and agents and AI? And I would say I would also add partners and software. Is it possible to have that on the horizon?
Like the world's best agent operator.
I would say, I would say yes and no. The way I've been thinking about this, because obviously we're all embedded in this AI world right now, and all these exact kind of conversations are happening. I am a big believer that AI is a tool for us to use to make us more efficient, to help our people move faster, to be more capable. So I'm less, I do think that you will be able to have smaller IT organizations as the business scales, right? I think it's the scaling function difference versus necessarily oh, I have a team of 20 and I can apply AI and I could get by with 5, right? Maybe not, but what you can do is you can empower your very smart people to not have to babysit now. And you can hand off a lot of the babysitting to in a safe way and a bounded way to agents, which is a healthy way to do things. And then your people can do things like say, hey, let's zoom out again. Let's look at our organization, our business, our estate our IT estate. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? While some of the more nitty gritty, boring stuff is handled by an agent. That's the way I like to think about it.
Perfect. And Jonathan, we're just about out of time, but I have to get one more question in. If you were any character from Lord of the Rings, which one would you be?
Ooh, solid.
Oh man. You know what? Oh man.
You can say Aragorn. It's fine.
I was gonna say Gandalf. But I think it'd be more interesting if I said Saruman. So just be careful. That's all I'm saying.
Ooh, there's a little bit of dark. I'm picking up some darkness here. Wow.
I like that. I like that.
I've got my
awesome.
My seeing stone, my Palantir right here. Watch out.
Oh my gosh.
I'm torn between Aragorn and Legolas. I don't know.
Okay.
We should
Gimli.
wrap. Oh,
Gimli.
yeah. Gimli.
Pocket
Oh, nice.
Hercules.
I can see this drink. Jonathan from Mission Cloud, thank you so much for joining us on Security Live.
Absolutely.
Don't go anywhere. Brian and I will be right back. Caught drinking. Caught drinking.
Perfect. Dude, there's a timer. Like how?
I thought I had time. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Security Live. This is a live streaming show that comes to you every Tuesday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific, for two 30-minute segments with some of your favorite co-hosts, like myself, Ryan Orsi from AWS, and sitting in that most beautifully high-rise looking executive chair is
Ryan, like when you say your favorite host, you don't say yourself. You're supposed to say the other. You know what?
Oh,
that's fine. I have some thoughts. I have some notes. We'll talk about it later.
Sure.
Everybody, Brian Mendenhall. I work at AWS. Maybe the least interesting part, because we have two things. I think before we get started, Ryan, we forgot to ask. Tell us where you're joining us from. I love to see. I didn't even know our co-host on the last show was going to be in Southern California. If you were on the North Pole, if you were on a boat in the middle of the ocean, I want to hear about it. I would love to know that. We'll give you a shout out. If you have questions along the way, please put them in chat. We will ask them. If you have Lord of the Ring references, potatoes, I will mention those as well.
That is acceptable as well.
So we love it all. Let's chat. Let's hang out.
Who's gonna really enjoy this as well is our guest.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Who do we have?
The Sean Phillips. Sean Phillips.
Sean Phillips from Arctic Wolf. Wow. How are you?
What's up, guys? I'm good. How are you? Thank you again for welcoming Arctic Wolf to another Security Live. We're excited to be here.
We're excited to have you.
Tell us about you, Sean, and Arctic Wolf. And if you make us do a howl at the end, we'll never forgive you.
That's why I'm going to make you do a howl in the beginning.
Oh.
Wow. Switcheroo.
Hey, we're going to do a switcheroo here. So Arctic Wolf, obviously we have a wolf in our logo. I'm actually not going to make you do one, but we have been around for quite a while. We're a pretty large cybersecurity player. We work closely with a number of AWS customers and partners. And for me personally, I'm from Rochester, New York. I don't know how many people are going to know where that is. There's a debate among people that live outside of New York City on what to call that region of New York. So I'm actually going to test you guys. What would you call that region? It is top left.
So
the nether
anything that is not the city, because I'm in San Diego, you basically live in Europe, first of all. So anything that's not in the city, I just call upstate. And even if it's left state, it's still upstate.
I would probably go to my phone and try to search this, because to Brian's point, I've lived on the Best Coast my whole life, so I don't understand anything that's on over there. I don't get
left coast, Best Coast. That's right.
East side. So if you were to say upstate, you'd probably be right to people that live in New York City, but people that live over where I live, they call it Western New York, and it's a big difference for the people that live there locally. So you've learned something new on the little colloquialism of the Western New York area.
Well, as soon as we said the West Coast was the best coast, the chat, the comments, absolutely lit up. We have pushed some buttons here.
Cybersecurity. We're also teaching people how to make friends very well. Yes. Back to cybersecurity for a quick second here, Sean. What are you all up to at Arctic Wolf? We've gotten a great exposure to the Aurora platform, which has been fantastic for just taking care of that continuous age-old and expanding problem of, oh my gosh, there are alerts coming at a security team from every corner of the planet, and how they deal with those and what's important. But now you've got this thing of the swarm of experts that I've been reading about. I'm kind of curious what's going on there.
So we have been busy. So we've been partners for a long time. I've known both of you for a very long time. You've helped us succeed as a partner at AWS, and that's no small feat. Like, succeeding as a partner is hard, and you guys have 140,000 partners. So thank you again for the lean in there. But generally speaking, the whole industry's been moving, and it's been moving towards effective deployment of AI solutions within the SOC in a perfect world within our space. There's been a couple articles that people like to reference pretty often saying,
did he get him with SOC? We got him, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so.
oh my goodness.
Production crew, hit him.
There it is. Busted.
Oh, you're right. Very nice. Nice job, Jess. So the SOC is Security Operations Center, which is a place where you can pull in telemetry. Telemetry, not an acronym, but it's effectively different streams of data from throughout your environment. Your environment can be lots of things: people, cloud. It can be on-premise. It can be something that's there's a whole bunch of areas and ways to unpack that. But for simplicity's sake, a SOC is pulling in that telemetry, and then it's working the triage, which just means it's going to go through and it's going to try to figure out what's the most important thing that you need to respond to as the customer. And then it's going to enrich, which is a fun word. That just means it's going to add context that you might not have. And then it's going to move that through and move it over to people at Arctic Wolf. And then people will end up looking at that and saying, yep, this is the process that it went through, and I validate that this is actually a risk for you. That I'm skipping a couple things, but generally that's what a SOC has historically done. Heavy on people, sometimes automating as much as possible. But yeah, that's where it's been. And then we recently at RSA launched the Aurora agentic SOC. And Superintelligence platform is a word we've been using as well, which is really just a blend of people and AI in an effective application. So I'll pause there to quickly go back to a story that I think will help to kind of connect some dots for you guys and for us. But everyone's read.
I feel like.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Sean. I think you morphed. You phased into I think the superintelligence for a second there, but
is he wearing the ring? Did he just like transfer?
I think so. It sounds like Skynet, and it sounds like we have Terminators eliminating threats. I'm just gonna say that. Is that where we're going? Like, we're gonna build Skynet. It's gonna be like, and then like virtual Terminator bots that are like blasting threats out of your environment. Is that where we're going?
Well, I don't want to see the comment cards on this show, guys.
We went from Lord of the Rings to Terminator. Everything in between, everybody. Keep it going.
So it can feel that way, but the way that we've put guardrails on that is we have worked to build out a swarm orchestrator and a swarm judge, and then a trust variable into our AI agents. So we're not just letting AI make decisions. If it doesn't know the answer, it escalates it to our team. We've got the world's largest commercial SOC. That's human beings sitting in offices all over the world, and they're the ones that are making the final decision. But to be fair, the swarm of experts is a group of different agents that are doing different things. We've got agents that are triaging, responding, threat hunting, threat intelligence agents, detection engineering agents. All of those do different unique functions, and each one is an expert at its task. So through the process, we've got our orchestrator and then process agents that are trying to work through what would have been a lot of that workflow for any traditional SOC historically. And it's taking on a lot of that upfront work that otherwise would have been either manual or using some other system like an LLM, but not agentic.
Now, what's important about having the super intelligent agent? Somebody slapped us with an acronym alert.
Large language model.
Sean did it. LLM.
But Brian's got it. Large language model.
I got you, buddy.
Production crew is 5 out of 5 stars on their comment card today. The hosts, we're still like evaluating our comment cards. But Sean, back to the superintelligence agents, right? That are designed for a specific job, and there's multiple ones of them. I mean, devil's advocate, isn't a security alert saying something is interesting or suspicious with this IP address or this process ID or this identity? Isn't it all the same or not? Like, why so many specialist agents in your superintelligence platform?
It's a good question. So in general, the number of agents that we've had helps to focus and tune the specific outcome. So if you there's lots of different methods to create automation and an agentic SOC platform. So if you look at different like schools of thought on the right way to build it, we went through a couple iterations on what would be the proper way to frame out from a cost perspective for our customers, and also from an end product perspective. So I think in the end, Arctic Wolf, to understand the answer, you have to understand how we operate. I'm going to go one step back.
This is good. This is good.
We are effectively an outsourced security operations center. So we are like a group that you would send your information to. We would manage your security operations center for you. There are other solutions out in the market. We call them do-it-yourself, or there's some co-managed solutions out there. They offer different methods for solving a similar problem. You can buy a solution off the shelf and you can turn it on and you can tune it on your own. That's one option. And that nowadays, those come with agents as well. And you can tune your own agent on top of that platform and you can control the whole thing. That's obviously, it's kind of capped based on the skill set of the person and the number of people they have to work with and the budget, right?
It sounds like work.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And hey, most people have a hard time defending the choice to make that kind of investment because of turnover in staff and the ability to even find people that know how to build guardrails for AI agents and things like that. So it is an option. And you typically find that really high up in the market with organizations that can afford that kind of spend. And then you've got other options where you may have a platform player. We would consider a platform player someone that has many, many individual cybersecurity point products that they've integrated into one view for a customer. There's quite a few out there. Arctic Wolf considers itself a platform player too. And we have a number of different solutions, one of which I was hoping to talk about later, but I'll save it. I'll save it.
Precursor teasing. I like it. If we can get like secret roadmap out of this guy too, that'd be great, Brian.
I love it.
Not so secret, but it's interesting. It's a fun one to kind of pivot towards. But in general, to answer your question, yeah, there's multiple ways to deploy. But Arctic Wolf is a managed solution. So since we're doing it this way, we are taking all the telemetry for you and we are working through it. We're providing you back roughly one alert in a given week in a perfect world. So we're working to reduce the workload on your team so you can focus on other things. The agents also, because they're specialized, they can find resolution faster because they're good at one task. So we've found that 15x is our case resolution output from the agentic SOC on average, which is pretty neat. And that we got to that because we specialize the agents specifically.
15. Define 15x for me again, Sean. I haven't had enough of this coffee.
It surprised me too when I read it, and at first I had to go back and make sure that our marketing team hadn't made a little typo there. But they're saying, and we have the data to support this, that the agentic model that we are leveraging with these agents and the swarm of experts is delivering 15x faster case resolution. And a case to Arctic Wolf would be anything that makes it through that. When earlier on I was talking about telemetry that comes into our security operations center, and that's coming in, and then we're enriching it, we're parsing it, things like that. And so the resolution on a real case being that much faster in a world where Claude and Anthropic are pushing out models that can discover vulnerabilities even faster, managed outcomes and faster resolutions are becoming not even an option. They're becoming an absolute necessity.
I think the last I saw a stat the other week, bad guys can discover vulnerabilities, exploit vulnerabilities, compromise credentials, lateral propagation, escalated privileges, and extract data exfiltration in like 47 seconds or some like mind-blowing number. And then what is the average time to detect, average time to respond? Is it still like weeks, months, years at this point? Like you got to wait until somebody else comes along and discovers that nation states have been in your environment forever. It seems like that gap has grown, right, Sean? And so like the importance of decreasing your mean time to detect, mean time to respond is becoming even more important, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that kind of plays well into why we moved in this direction and why we've been investing in this these outcomes really for customers, because they need to be able to operate at machine speed is a term that we've been using at Arctic Wolf. And if they can't, they're just not even going to know half the things that are happening or half the problems that they're facing. And ignorance might be bliss in theory, but in practice with investors and your IP on the line and all these other things that are truly at risk every day, it's going to become a very difficult world if people can't move quickly towards working at machine speed.
Yeah, there won't be a strategy to just ignore insecurity. Anthropic's Mythos and Project Glasswing that AWS is a part of, and there's another one for Daybreak with OpenAI, and there's going to be more and more and more. Basically, these models, which are really great cybersecurity experts, right? They're chaining together vulnerabilities to get to an exploit, to get to an outcome that would be pretty difficult for a human being or a team of humans to go stitch together before something in that chain changes. So time, I love that you're kind of honing in on that, Sean, that the time to resolve these things and the fact that you've got humans to make a final judgment call, I think is highly, highly important in your whole process. I don't know any, from my partner conversations, customer conversations out there, we run AI security go-to-market here at AWS. I haven't met somebody in a position of authority that's told their team, go ahead and take the human decision out of a resolution, of a significant resolution, right? Like something, a response action that could disable a user, an account, or an asset or a resource. They're not fully going to Brian's Skynet. They're not fully doing that.
I don't know. So back to the earlier, I meant to get to this reference, but I think we've all read the reports about how 95%, I'm using this number referencing a specific news article, of agentic AI deployments fail within companies. And so I think like the cybersecurity market's not immune to that. Like we've all been working hard to get to models that function. And we have a slight advantage in the sense that we have roughly 12 to 14 years of SOC experience that we can apply to what would effectively be frontier modeling with Anthropic through Bedrock. We leverage AWS Bedrock, and then we acquire multiple models to be able to power our platform. But in the end, it's a big differentiator that we have the expertise to be able to tune these models, and that we can help it to make the right decisions based on true telemetry that we've been able to work through and see over years. So we can train these things, not using synthetic data or other methods to train a model, but through true kind of hands-on keyboard and eyes on glass experience that we can apply.
Right. As an MSSP, right, as seeing threat like security telemetry from every security tool on the planet across hundreds of customers, like your signal, like you guys become kind of the central hub of signal, right? And like what better place to be able to like fine tune models on what comes in and what goes out, and then what the results are than you guys.
That's what we found so far, and we're continuing to lean into that as a differentiator as we continue to work in the market and scale.
I got busted. Thank you in chat for calling me an MSSP.
MSSP.
Managed security service provider. My kids, when people ask, what do you do? My kids run around yelling MSSP, which is not correct, but because I say that word so much. So MSSP, acronym alert, busted myself. I owe somebody a gold doubloon, I think.
But also a great business model if you're out there thinking about, maybe I can start a business or do something in cybersecurity. Managed security, great model. I mean, Arctic Wolf is sort of tip of the tower there, right? You've heard of the largest SOC on the planet. There's all sorts of there's plenty of room. I want to say, Sean, hopefully that's not offensive to Arctic Wolf, right? But there's plenty of room because security is a team sport. If you went to RSA and saw AWS, us AWSers there, that was kind of one of our big taglines. Is it's a team sport. Having Arctic Wolf as a key partner with us in the AWS cyber go-to-market team is hugely important for all the reasons you just said. Like real world scenarios beat simulations 10 out of 10 times.
They absolutely do, and you don't know when you open yourself up to, like for example, I'll just speak to like the elephant in the room in this space. Like there's a lot of PE-backed organizations spinning up agentic SOCs very rapidly, and they're not. There's nothing wrong with that. They see a market and they're working quickly to address that market gap. Because you have, like, if you think about the cybersecurity space, which we've all been in for probably way too long, there's a couple camps that you could like kind of visualize just as for simplicity. You could have these platform players, like these larger orgs, like the Palo Altos, the CrowdStrikes, the Arctic Wolf, if we put ourselves in that camp. And then you've got these new agentic SOC PE-backed organizations that are coming towards a market. And it's good validation that everybody believes that there is efficiency to be gained through the application of AI to the cybersecurity stack. Nobody's going to doubt that. Who wins is going to be an interesting discussion and conversation. And you guys, as the hyperscaler and the partner, in a sense, you want to see all of us succeed because you guys continue to grow in that sense, and we continue to rely on each other. Back to the team. Right. concept, but just really high level, thinking about it as these two groups. One clearly seeing a market need and trying to rapidly grow into it, and then you've got the kind of platform players like us we have like a moat defense position that we have to all entrench in, and then we also have to continue to have the platform discussions with our peers and try to differentiate there. So it's an intriguing space right now, and I think the next couple of quarters are going to be really interesting as the space continues to rapidly define itself. Now that you've got all these launches post RSA.
Just did a quick search on my agents that looks at care of my calendar and email. I took 68 calls in the last week with private equity, or otherwise known as PE. I'm surprised the production crew didn't hit you on that. We're not talking physical education on this show, not right now. But 68 calls with PE-backed AI SOC, or in other cases, it was AI visibility, just getting visibility of agents in your environment. So huge explosion of use cases and companies, to Sean's point here.
It's been interesting. And obviously when PE enters a market, they want to see a winner. They're making a bet, right? So it's going to be interesting watching this space develop over time. But that leads us to actually an interesting topic. So we made an acquisition recently. So tying this to PE, private equity does not generally, they do lots of things, but in the context of what we were just talking about, we were talking about them investing in startups in this space. But now I'm shifting to Arctic Wolf acquiring a company. We're not a private equity company, but we just continue to add to our portfolio. And recently we acquired a company called Sevco. Sevco helps Arctic Wolf to expand its platform to now do attack surface management. So that's something pretty cool, and it's a space that everybody really needs, whether they know it or not. And I'm just going to go back in time because, again, this is a good way to connect some dots. I've been in this space for about 10 years now, and so I probably have too many stories. But back when I started in cybersecurity, I was working with governance, risk, and compliance people all the time, and we would effectively position risk assessments, which were meant to be manual discussions of a bunch of NIST questions or ISO questions that we would then physically fill into an Excel doc with your answer, and we would score that risk at the end. And then you would have to either accept the risk or you would have to deal with the risk within X amount of time, or else you were going to be liable for having known about a risk and not doing anything with it. So back to my earlier days, these things still happen. Largely, they're more automated today, and they use other plugins to do the work. But I'm only framing this in the sense that I would go and talk to a CISO at a medical pharmaceutical company for a gap assessment against NIST or ISO, or a risk assessment. And they would typically have to go 2 steps back before they even talk to me, because they didn't know where their assets lived. They didn't know what their data classification strategy was. They didn't know effectively how to know what should go into the risk assessment. And so if we sold them a risk assessment, we would end up just wasting their money because they didn't have any idea where all these things sat. And that's only gotten harder as we've had mobile devices joining networks and all these other instant spin up capabilities for things like EC2 and S3 even. It's very difficult to police all of your assets. And so we purposely moved into this space because we knew there was a big need here, and we knew that this was an area that we could address well with our platform. And so we've now acquired this organization, and we're selling this solution as attack surface management as a part of our portfolio around exposure management. So we're excited about this.
Well done. Yeah. Needed for sure.
I love seeing how MSSP, how you've continued to grow out, and then what use cases, Sean, get kind of pulled in as a part of that threat detection, incident response, attack surface management. Absolutely perfect fit. There's a question in chat. I hope our producers are ready. I think they're ready to throw this up. Eerie edits, yes. And as we've been looking at the lore of cybersecurity, what has been the biggest change in security in 10 years, Sean? What have you seen over your time?
Oh, me? Oh, man. Well, it's funny, this question. So I teach cyber law and policy at RIT, which is a school in upstate New York, Western New York, technically. And Orsi actually has come and spoken with me to the class in the past. And it's always funny going back and looking at, to me, the hyper specialization that's happened in this industry has been really cool to see. And it was always inevitable, right? As things got more complex, you would need more specialization. But 10 years ago, you could get into cybersecurity fairly easily without much of a cyber background. And now the market is just massive, and there's so many places you can go. And I know that's maybe a cop-out answer, in a sense, if you're a very technical person. I don't know you, so I don't know if you're a very technical person or not, the person that asked the question. But in general, for me, that's been a really encouraging thing to see, because now as I'm teaching students, I can tell them, hey, like cyber insurance, for example, that's a really cool market, and insurance reduction of risk, like that's a tangible market for you. Or coming way over here to the other side, you could say like cloud security posture management, like that's its own space with its own winners and losers and its own like huge companies that work in that space. So it's just been cool to see the niches and the fact that the market can support this many niches, and that like this cybersecurity kind of juggernaut of a tech SaaS market continues to scale.
Well said, Sean. And I'd love to check in with your students sometime. That was a really cool group of young people that you were inspiring there. And hey, with all this talk about AI helping the security industry, there still is the need for more people in the system. We still need more people that know how to leverage AI to achieve an outcome in the security space.
Absolutely. And most of the students that I've worked with, and Orsi was able to talk about some of his experience, like getting into the industry in general, Ryan, I always thought was kind of inspiring from your view and how you did it. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to spin this question back to you guys. What have you seen change in the last 10 years? Because you've both been working side by side with me, whether not here, but we've become friends over the last number of years, and you both have good answers to that too.
Mendenhall, you have to go first.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew you were going to throw me under the bus to go first. Sean, gosh, I've been in tech for 20 something years. I'm actually 80 years old. A lot of skin moisturizer does the job. Get your sleep at night, get your 8 hours. But things I think, like you said, like the kind of all of the sprawl of use cases, I've seen over time expansion and contraction happen multiple times. It seems to be like about a 10-year cycle of like we explode into multiple disparate use cases, and then they contract back. And even with physical infrastructure, we've gone from like consolidated rigs, like here's my server, which has storage, network, processing, everything, into distributed work, like physical infrastructure of like my storage is over there, my processors over there. And that, like, it just keeps kind of going back and forth. And I think that the same thing seems to be happening with security in about a 10-year cycle. And right now, I feel like we're in a state of recontraction where, like, the platforms, like you mentioned, even yourself, are starting to pull in use cases that were typically point products and standalone offerings that are now part of like consolidated outcomes. And like at AWS, one of the ways that we've addressed that is with like the security competency. We have large categories. Like we've got threat detection and incident response, and then under that, individual use cases like XDR, extended detection response, MDR, managed detection response, SIEM, security information event management, like all of these individual use cases that roll up to understand the space. And we continue to grow that taxonomy, but they do group into larger categories. So expansion, contraction, about every 10 years.
Ooh, well said. And just like how the 90s clothes are coming back into the 12 to 14-year-old range, I've got two boys, I see best of breed, which is buy as many software tools as you can, just buy the best one and try your best to put it together, versus the other side of that coin is go platform. Let a platform like decide best of breed for you, and then you use the like simplification layer. That keeps cycling back and forth as well. And I think, a lot of people are wanting to be like, I don't need any platform or best of breed tool. I'm just going to use my AI orchestration layer and go do this myself. They're going to come back very, very soon. Maybe in like 6 weeks from now, they're going to come back to platforms. They need simplification. It's just human nature. We can't handle that much complexity in a large system. So I see that kind of best of breed platform. People branched out to their AI tools set right now just to explore. It's kind of neat what you can do. They're coming back, in my humble opinion. Sean, before we let you go, man, we only got like 1 minute left. Brian has a really important question for you.
I've got it for you. I've got it. Ryan, you tried to put me on the spot, but I was ready. Why didn't Frodo just jump on an eagle and take an eagle to Mordor for Lord of the Rings and skip the entire journey?
I have seen those Instagram videos of like the whole movie in like 5 seconds, like he just hops on when he's done. I honestly don't know the answer, because if it can't be around the whole time, like it's a great question. Like,
audience, if you don't answer,
your edit says it's an easy answer, but easy answer. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. Maybe because I was gonna make some clunky statement about how the journey is the destination and blah blah blah, but that's a little too wild for that.
Your students would be proud of you, Sean.
Hat night, because the Nazgul would have destroyed him. I think that feels pretty good. That feels
that's valid.
Hey,
That makes sense.
at
That's a good
night,
point.
that's a logical answer. We appreciate you that night.
He's not getting by.
which
Sean,
King of Angmar?
From Arctic
Sorry.
Wolf, we're gonna have to say goodbye until next time, friends, folks. We'll be back every other Tuesday, 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific.
Always
Take
a
care,
pleasure.
folks.
Thanks, guys.